Red Sails to Capri. Chapter 6. A long story without a beginning. It was scarcely light when Michael left the inn in the next morning. The mountain paths and the village streets were deserted. The beach was deserted too, and the ocean. No, not the ocean. The ocean had one small boat on it and a small speck inside the boat. Angelo! Angelo! Michael ran across the sand. Angelo, wait! With every step, the speck grew larger. It had a head now, and arms. It waved an oar. Angelo! Michael was panting when he finally reached the boat. Angelo, I was afraid I'd miss you. One more wave and you would have. I was just ready to leave. Angelo looked pleased. You're going fishing with me. No, Angelo, I can't. I left the inn before anyone was awake. No one must know I've come. I must hurry back. Oh, Angelo. What is the matter, Michael? A dreadful thing has happened, dreadful. What? Angelo, what do you really think about the cove? The cove? Yes. Why do you ask? Angelo, listen. In a few minutes, Michael told all that had happened the night before. Angelo shook his head. It is a bad business, Michael. A bad business. I know. Angelo, you know what will happen if Herr Nordstrom insists upon going? The whole town will blame Papa because he is a guest at our inn. They will blame Papa for any bad luck that happens to anyone for years to come. Angelo nodded. Angelo? Yes, Michael. Angelo, are you afraid of the cove? Afraid? Me? Do you not know? Angelo is afraid of nothing. He winked at Michael. Nothing. Then will you tell me, won't you, Angelo, about the cove? Why do you want to know? Why? Why do you think? I want to keep Herr Nordstrom from going there. Angelo patted Michael's arm. Do not worry, my little friend. Herr Nordstrom will never go to the cove. How do you know? How can you be so sure? Sure? Of course I'm sure. Use your head, Michael. How could he possibly get there? Does he have a small boat? No. Then you see, there is nothing to worry about. That is what you think. He's going to get one. Where? In Naples. Naples? Yes. He's very wealthy. Money, expense, they mean nothing to him. All right, all right. He goes to Naples and gets a boat. But once he gets back here, will he be able to row it in these waters? I doubt it. Good. Now do you see? You will have nothing to worry about. With the first high wave, he will come splashing back to shore. Michael nodded. I thought that too, but Lord Derby says something else. He says Herr Nordstrom has spent all his life reading and studying. He says he is so smart he doesn't have enough sense to be afraid. Ah, Angelo shook his head. That is different. You should have told me right away. Told you what, Angelo? That he is a smart fool. That makes everything different. A smart fool, there is nothing in the world as dangerous as a smart fool. He will try anything. Angelo? Yes, Michael. What are we going to do? We? Why we? I am a simple fisherman, minding my own business. Why we? All right then, I. What am I going to do? Go back to the inn. Why? 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 So I can think. Oh, Angelo, do you think you'll be able to think of a way to keep him from going? I think only one thing. I think I cannot think with so much talking going on around here. Oh, Angelo, you're wonderful. I knew you'd help me. I knew. I make no promises. Now go. Thank you, Angelo. Thanks. For what? For thinking. I haven't started yet. But you will. You said you would. With you around? Never. But I won't be here. I'm going. When? Now. I don't believe it. I'll show you. Michael stood up and the boat tipped forward. Angelo groaned. Oh, you'll drown us both first. You? Michael laughed. It would be easier to drown a cork. See, I told you. What? You're never going. I am. You're not. You're still here talking. Michael jumped to the beach. Goodbye, Angelo. I hope. No hopes, no promises. Remember? All right, Angelo. Goodbye. Good luck. All right, Michael. Goodbye. He gave a loud groan. Oh, and good riddance. Back at the inn, Michael tiptoed carefully up the stairs, then turned around and stomped down as if he had just come out of his room. He could tell by the kitchen noises that he was late, and he was afraid of the questions that might be waiting for him. Opening the door, he rubbed his eyes, yawned and stretched, and tried to look sleepy. Toot-too, toot-tee, tra-la-la-la-la-la, tra-la-la-la-la-la. The song came from the far end of the kitchen and filled the room. Toot-too, toot-tee, tra-la-la-la-la-la. Michael stopped in the middle of a yawn and smiled. He was in luck. His mother was singing her soft-boiled egg song and had ears for nothing else. The song had 3 stanzas and 3 choruses, and when it was finished, the eggs would be done. It was an old recipe, but the song had to be perfect. Signora Pagano demanded complete silence while she was singing. One interruption, one note held too long, and the eggs would be ruined. Michael hurried to his mother's side and hid behind her song. Here he was safe. No one, not even his father, would dare to ask questions until the final verse was finished. By that time, even his lateness might be forgotten. Finally, the song and eggs were finished. Signora Pagano gave a great sigh and lifted the eggs from the boiling water. Signor Pagano, who had been walking around on tiptoe, gratefully lowered his heels. Michael, the safety of the song gone, pretended to be counting the breakfast plates. Michael! Yes, Papa. Michael, come here. Michael walked slowly across the room. Yes, Papa. Michael, Signor Pagano's voice was scarcely a whisper. Michael, our troubles are over. Over, Papa? Yes. Why? Look. Signor Pagano pointed toward the fireplace. Look, what do you see? I see a chair with Herr Nordstrom in it. Signor Pagano nodded. And what is our dear friend Herr Nordstrom doing? He's reading a book. Signor Pagano rubbed his hands together. Fine, fine. And does our friend look as if he is going out, Signor Cristoforo Colombo, to make wonderful discoveries and startle the world? Michael laughed. No, he does not. Listen, Michael. Herr Nordstrom came downstairs this morning, had his breakfast, sat down in that chair over there, and has had his nose in a book ever since. Already he has forgotten all about the cove. Signora Pagano, passing triumphantly with her eggs, nodded. You are right, Papa. He has forgotten all about it. The poor boy. He got excited last night and lost his head. We must not blame him. Scholars, they are all alike. They know a lot of fine words, and they like to use them. But say boo to them, and they scurry back to their books like scared rabbits. For a few minutes, Michael felt relieved and happy. Then he remembered Angelo. As always, Angelo was right. Herr Nordstrom wasn't going. It had all been a lot of talk, nothing more. Angelo was right, and he, Michael, was wrong. And now there was Angelo, thinking. Michael shivered. He had learned from experience that when Angelo started thinking, things began to happen. Who knew where Angelo's thinking might take him? Who knew what he might be doing this very minute? Please, Papa, please, could I run down and see Angelo for a few minutes? Angelo? Why Angelo at this time of the morning? Please, Papa. Why do you want to see him? To talk to him. About what? Nothing, well, next week perhaps, when we aren't so busy. Next week? One can talk about nothing just as well next week as this morning's, and Angelo will still be there. He will not fly away. Lord Derby is waiting for his breakfast. Michael spent the day in a daze. He would look at Herr Nordstrom still in his corner and feel wonderfully happy. Then he would think of Angelo in his thinking and feel unbelievably miserable. No one knew what Angelo might do once he got started. Given a good excuse, he would try anything. Michael was willing to try anything in order to get to Angelo. If he could find some excuse for going to the village, it would only take a few minutes more to reach Angelo's house, and if he ran all the way, no one would ever know the difference. Didn't his mother need some fish from the market? No. Didn't they need wood? No. Didn't they? No. Nothing worked. The day passed slowly. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. Finally, the last dish was washed and put away. Michael closed the last cabinet door with a thankful bang, and he had one more plan left. He would pretend he was sleepy, go to his room, crawl out through the window, climb down the chimney stones, and with a little moonlight and a lot of luck, he could get to Angelo's house and back without too much trouble. Ah, Signor Pagano came into the kitchen and began to take down the wine glasses. Come, Mama, Michael, we're going to have a little celebration. He leaned over and whispered to the two of them. Herr Nordstrom has not mentioned the cove all day. What better reason could one have to celebrate? He put the glasses and an old bottle of wine on a tray and carried them over to the fireplace. Signora Pagano, wiping her hands on her apron, walked behind him. Michael, still deep in his plan, absent-mindedly followed them. Lord Derby, looking up, saw the little procession coming into the room and raised his eyebrows. Hey, what is this, Signor Pagano? Signor Pagano beamed. A celebration. A celebration? Monsieur Jacques looked up too, and so did Herr Nordstrom. A celebration? Why? Why? Signor Pagano stopped. Why, indeed? What could he say? He dared not mention the real reason. If he complimented Herr Nordstrom on forgetting the cove, he might only remind him again. Why? Signor Pagano passed the glasses around slowly, trying to think. Why? Then he began to smile. Why indeed, he said, taking a deep breath. Why celebrate today? Today is nothing. Today is a simple common day, a plain Tuesday of a day. Nothing ever happened today. No important person was born, no battle was fought, no war was won. It is not a saint's day or a holiday. So I suppose we cannot celebrate. Bah! Signor Pagano cleared his throat and took another deep breath. Signori, let us take the days of the year. They pass by us in long procession. Then suddenly, a big important day comes along, its head held high, and it says to everyone, Today you may celebrate. But perhaps I do not feel like celebrating that day. Perhaps instead, I feel like making faces at everyone or crawling under the bed. Who knows? But today, I feel gay. Wonderful! Today, for me, inside of me, it is a holiday, a Pagano day. Signori, I propose a toast. A toast to the cove! Herr Nordstrom shouted the words. His glass was held higher than any of the others. A toast to the cove, Signor Pagano, and a toast to the truth. Signor Pagano lowered his wine glass and put it on the table. I cannot drink to that, Herr Nordstrom. We hoped, we prayed you had forgotten all about it. Forgotten about the cove? How could I? Why should I? Mamma mia, for your own good, we hoped, for... Outside, the wind blew more furiously than ever. Shutters banged against the windows, branches scraped and scratched against the house, and something banged against the door. Something, or someone. For a minute, everyone was silent. Then it came again. 3 hard, loud knocks. Michael, the door. But Michael was already there. He lifted the latch and pulled it open. Angelo! Good evening, Michael. Angelo! Angelo glanced around the room, then looked at Signora Pagano questioningly. I am very dusty, Signora. He began to brush his coat with his hands. The scirocco, it grows worse every minute. Signora Pagano walked toward him, looking a little embarrassed. Angelo, I have never thanked you for those fish you sent one day, not so very long ago. They saved. Oh, Angelo laughed. They were nothing. Had I not sent them to you, I would have thrown them back into the ocean. Angelo, Signora Pagano put her hands on her hips and sighed. Ah, Angelo, can't you ever tell the truth? Ever? You know they were wonderful fish. I think they were the best I ever tasted. That was not the fish, Signora Pagano, but the way you cook them. I've heard it said that you could talk a stone into tasting sweet and juicy. Humph! Signora Pagano tried hard not to smile. Humph! I would be so much more pleased, I assure you, if I could talk some people into telling the truth. Angelo! Lord Derby left his place by the fire and walked toward the door. Are you the fellow we saw on the beach the day we arrived? Angelo smiled. There's only one Angelo, and I am he. Then I must thank you, Lord Derby went on. I must thank you for sending us to this place. It is, as you said, quiet and peaceful. He looked at Herr Nordstrom out of the corners of his eyes. At least it was quiet and peaceful until last night. Since then, Angelo nodded. I know. That is why I'm here. You? Signor Pagano hurried toward them. You, Angelo? How do you know about all this? Michael looked from Angelo to his father. I told him, Papa. You told him when? This morning before you were awake. Before? Michael, you shouldn't have. I had to do something, Papa. I couldn't just sit here and let Herr Nordstrom go off. Signor Pagano looked first at Michael, then at Angelo. And I suppose Angelo is going to stop him. Of course, Signora Pagano gave a little laugh. Have you forgotten, Papa? Angelo can do anything. Signor Pagano paid no attention. He looked only at Michael. Michael, you shouldn't have. It's all right, Angelo patted Signor Pagano on his back. It is all right. You know that I'm your friend. I will say nothing to anyone, and perhaps I can help. How? Angelo looked across the room. Herr Nordstrom? Yes, Angelo? Herr Nordstrom, I have come here tonight to tell you about the cove. If you are trying to frighten me, Angelo, it is of no use. I am not trying to frighten you. I'm trying to warn you. I thought no one would talk about the cove. Why are you willing to talk about it? Because I think my friends are in trouble and I want to help them. Because I hate to see a young fellow like you throw away his life. Herr Nordstrom stood up and made himself as tall as possible. Why is everyone so sure I'm going to throw away my life? Can you swim, Herr Nordstrom? No. Can you row a boat? A little. A little? Angelo put his hands to his head and rocked back and forth. A little. Mamma mia. He says he can row a little, and he is going to the cove. Why not? Herr Nordstrom's face began to turn red. Well, why not? The waters around there look calm enough. Angelo waved his hands above his head. Only a stupido would say such a thing. It is the rocks you cannot see, Herr Nordstrom, that punch holes in your boat. You're just trying to frighten me, Herr Nordstrom's eyes flashed. You do not want me to go, so you try to frighten me. Angelo sat down on a low stool close to the fireplace. Come, come, he waved his hands. Come, sit down, all of you. Sit down and I will tell you about the cove. The cove. He shrugged his shoulders. It's a long story and it has no beginning. Monsieur Jacques laughed. Last night, Signor Pagano said it was a long story without an end. That's right, Angelo nodded. It has no end and no beginning. As far back as anyone can remember, the people of Capri have feared the cove. No one knows when it started. He looked hard at Herr Nordstrom. No one knows when it will end. But first of all, you must know one thing. At the end of the cove, there is a cave. Herr Nordstrom leaned forward. How do you know? I know. Everyone knows. It can be seen at certain times. When the tide is low and the sun is just right, you can see the mouth very plainly. At high tide, it disappears altogether. Herr Nordstrom leaned back in his chair. All right, he said. There is a cave. What is so terrible about a cave? Angelo looked down his nose at him. Would you like to get caught in one when the tide came in? Of course not. Herr Nordstrom gave a short laugh. But why should one get caught? The tide does not rise and fall so quickly. One could easily get in and out again. One could easily get in, Herr Nordstrom. And why not out again? That would depend on what you find inside the cave. Find? What could I find? Many things, perhaps. What things? There are many stories. I'm all ears, Angelo. Some say there are man-eating fish in the cave. Man-eating fish? Do you believe that? Angelo raised his eyebrows. I know there are man-eating fish, Herr Nordstrom. In these waters? Angelo shrugged. Strange fish have been found in strange places, Herr Nordstrom. Who can tell a fish where to live? All right, man-eating fish. What other stories do they tell, Angelo? They say the mouth of the cave opens and closes at certain times. Herr Nordstrom laughed. But that is impossible, ridiculous. Is it? If someone is there to open and close it, would it be impossible, Herr Nordstrom? Someone? What do you mean? I mean this. As long as anyone can remember, Capri has been a favorite spot for pirates. They've been driven away time and again, but they always return. Sometimes for 10 years, 15 years. No one will hear of them. Then suddenly, Herr Nordstrom looked at him sharply. You think pirates might be using the cave in the cove? Angelo shrugged. Many pirates have used many caves, Herr Nordstrom. Like the fish, no one can tell them where to live. Man-eating fish, pirates. Herr Nordstrom seemed to be weighing the words. All right, Angelo. What other stories? The next are not stories. They are facts. Good. I like facts. Then you will delight in these, Herr Nordstrom, and you can discover them for yourself. For the first one, you will need your ears. Take your ears, Herr Nordstrom, and a boat, and row out toward the cave. When you come within sight of it, stop. Pull in your oars and perk up your ears. Then listen. I do not know what you will hear, but I am sure you will hear something. I have heard deep roars and angry hissing. I've heard moaning and groaning. I've heard a strange rattling sound as if chains were being dragged across the rocks. I've heard a heavy grating noise as if a huge door had been closed. Angelo stopped for a minute and then went on. For the second fact, Herr Nordstrom, you will need your eyes. Take them for a walk someday and look around you on Capri. You will see a great deal of volcanic rock. You will see Vesuvius over there in the Bay of Naples. She is asleep now, but she does not always sleep. Sometimes she wakes with a roar and sends out clouds of steam, columns of dust, and streams of lava. Look at our next-door neighbor, the island of Ischia. She has had so many earthquakes, no one bothers to count them anymore. When the earth moves, Herr Nordstrom, strange things happen. Who knows what has happened or might be happening inside that cave? Herr Nordstrom nodded his head slowly. You are right, Angelo, but it is hard to believe that in all these years, no one has had the courage or the curiosity to find out the truth about this place. Two people did. Two people? Who? Two priests. Two priests were brave enough. They did not believe the old superstitions and were determined to find out the truth. They swam out to the cove one morning, two young priests, strong and healthy. But late that afternoon, a fisherman found them on the beach, more dead than alive. He carried them to his cottage and did what he could to make them comfortable. In the middle of the night, one priest cried out, "The water! It was freezing like liquid ice." And the other priest answered, "The cave! It was on fire with blue flames." A few minutes later, they were both dead. In memory of these two priests, Angelo went on, the people of Capri made a solemn pledge never to mention the cove again. He spread his hands before him. So you see what you have. You have an old superstition, a solemn pledge to the church, and a great fear of the mysterious cave. Weave these together, and you have something very strange. Herr Nordstrom nodded. I understand how the people feel, Angelo. But don't you see, I don't feel that way myself. Take what the priest said, for instance. It doesn't make sense. Angelo looked up quickly. You don't believe that water could be liquid ice, Herr Nordstrom? Yes, yes, of course. Naturally, the water could be very cold. But blue flames? Flames are red and yellow. Who ever heard of blue flames? Angelo smiled. Have you ever seen a fire, Herr Nordstrom? Of course I've seen a fire. What kind of question is that? I'm looking at a fire right now. You are looking at a fire, Herr Nordstrom, but have you ever seen one? To look and to see are two different things. Anyone with eyes can look. Few people really see. Look at the flames, Herr Nordstrom. They are yellow around the edges, then red. But in the very center, down toward the bottom, you will see, if you really look, that they are blue. That is the hot part of the flame, Herr Nordstrom. And flames that are all blue, Angelo shook his head. They would be hot indeed, hotter than anything you can imagine, or I can imagine. Herr Nordstrom spoke very slowly. Angelo, he said, I'm going to that cave. Angelo looked just as determined as Herr Nordstrom. He too spoke very slowly. Herr Nordstrom, I came here tonight for two reasons. First, I came to persuade you not to go. No one could do that, Angelo. And second, Angelo went on as if he had not been interrupted, and second, I came to tell you that if you do go, he waited a second or two and then went on. If you do go, Herr Nordstrom, I'm going with you. What? Signor Pagano jumped from his chair. Angelo, you cannot go. Why not? Why should you? If I go, Herr Nordstrom will at least have a chance to get to the cave. Of course, I cannot promise he will get back. Bah! Why should you risk your life to save He glared at Herr Nordstrom. Well, Angelo looked at Signora Pagano out of the corner of his eyes and smiled. Well, I guess I've told some pretty big stories in my life. He beat his chest with his fists and grinned. I, the great Angelo, am afraid of nothing. Now I have a chance to show that I'm as good as I think I am. He winked at Michael. Maybe even better than I think I am, eh, Michael? If anyone goes, I should go, Signor Pagano shouted. Herr Nordstrom is my guest. He is my responsibility. I should go, Monsieur Jacques walked back and forth across the room. If anyone goes, I should go. I started all this. It was my idea. If you go, I go. Lord Derby blew on his mustaches and cleared his throat. Mama, if Papa goes, I'm going too. No, Michael. Yes, Mama, you have to let me. Papa will need me. You know he can't swim a stroke and... Hush, hush. No one is going. They are. Everyone is going. It seemed that Michael was right. Heads nodded, arms waved, shoulders shrugged. Eyebrows and mustaches rose and fell, backs straightened, chins went up, chests expanded, voices rose higher and higher. Finally, Monsieur Jacques' voice rose above the others. All right, everyone, it's settled. We're all going. We'll leave tomorrow. Tomorrow? Angelo's voice sounded like thunder. Tomorrow? Have you gone mad? Next month, perhaps, if we are lucky. Next month? Everyone stared at Angelo. That is fantastic, ridiculous, insane. Listen. Angelo spoke slowly, and suddenly everyone was quiet. Listen to me. It is insane to go at all. Everything is against us. But since we are going, we must make it as sane as possible. What do you mean? Mean? I mean this. It will take at least a week to see about the boats. They will not be easy to get. Angelo looked at Herr Nordstrom. We might, have to go all the way to Naples to get them. Next, I must spend at least a week, maybe more, watching the tide, and I will have to do it secretly. Secretly! That must be our watchword, our motto, our pledge to ourselves and to each other. I do not know what we will find in the cave. I do know that the waters of the cove are dangerous. But more dangerous than the cave or the cove are the people of Capri. If they find out about our plans, they will do anything to stop us. Anything! Angelo picked up his cap and started toward the door. Now, I tell you, good night, signore. I'm tired." Suddenly, all the excitement was gone. Everyone looked tired and a little bewildered. Everyone except Signora Pagano. She smiled to herself. For the men, even to think about going to the cave was, of course, ridiculous. But let them make their plans. They hadn't gone yet. Within a month, anything could happen. Anything or something. Already, a little plan was beginning to run through her mind. And we'll continue with Chapter 7 in the next video. I hope you're enjoying the story. Thanks so much for listening, and please reach out, click like, and subscribe. I love you guys. As Tigger says, ta-ta for now.